Episode number 110 from Hong Kong, China. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton, and thank you for tuning in. I am coming to you now from Hong Kong. My wife and I were in Macau from the last time, and we've since taken a boat back to Hong Kong. We rented a neat little apartment here in Hong Kong, and the first couple days I was here, I was even telling my wife, I was like, we might be able to have a little apartment here when we get older and retired. And after spending about a week here, I don't know that I want to do that anymore. The city is extremely crowded. It's like New York, but with Chinese people. And it's man, you just have no personal space. Everything is super crowded on the subways, just walking around town, in restaurants. You'll go to sit down at a table in a restaurant, and if the two of you are sitting at a table with four chairs, if all the tables are full and there's people waiting, they'll sit two more people right down at your table. So now you're eating with people that you've never met before, which in some ways is kind of cool, but in other ways it's kind of like, I kind of want my space, so definitely a different city, but nonetheless very cool. We're here during Chinese New Year. So tonight, actually here in a few hours, we're going to go out and start we signed up with a tour group. We're going to take a bus to a bunch of the northern territories and go see that. Then we're going to go to the parade, the one that you see on TV where they have the dragons and the firecrackers and stuff like that in the street. We're going to go see that. And tomorrow we're going to go see the fireworks over Victoria Bay. So I've seen these videos on YouTube, and I believe this is probably going to be the most impressive fireworks show I've ever seen in my life. So should be pretty cool. And then after that, we're back off to the States. I am looking forward to getting home. I'm looking forward to getting back to work and my regular routine and like that. But this has been an awesome vacation and a lot of fun. So, where we left off from last week, I played the second day in Macau. I played 3 tournaments that day. I played a warm-up at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a $1,200 Hong Kong buy-in. And then I played a satellite to the main for $500, and then I played the main for 3,000 Hong Kong dollars. So had an interesting spot come up with a guy. His name was Craig. We had met outside and kind of developed that buddy-buddy relationship you get in live tournament settings, or cash games, I suppose. But we were outside, we were talking. He was from England, and now he was kind of touring Hong Kong, and he was going to go to Korea and Japan, and he was just there to play cards. Not a professional player by any means. He had played some roulette and done very well at that. And now he was just killing time, free rolling with poker. So I'd played with him for the last couple of days, and he was very tight. I've never seen him bluff raise, and he was just a tight, straightforward player, never 3-betting light that I had seen, and we'd been playing at the table together for probably 12 or 14 hours over the course of a couple of days. So I felt like I had a really good read on this player. We go, let's see. Okay, so the hand we got here, blind levels are 100, 200. Hero, we are in early middle position. We have a stack of 57-25. Okay, and we pick up Ace Jack of Hearts. So early middle position, Ace Jack of Hearts. Just kind of the way I play Ace Jack under the gun. I'm folding that. under the gun +1 suited, probably raising, especially if it's at an easy table. If it's at a tough table, might even dump it. Yeah, so that's where we're at with Ace Jack suited. So we got Ace Jack of Hearts at 100, 200. I choose to raise to 525. Craig, the player that we'd become friends with, he's on our direct left. He calls the 525. Then we get a late position call of 525 from another player who I don't even remember, so he's not relevant in the hand. And the small blind and the big blind fold. Now, what is Craig calling there with? I think he's calling here with all pairs except for probably deuces maybe. And he's calling with things like suited connectors. He's even calling with things like aces, kings, queens, and jacks. He's calling with suited broadways. Just a tight player. Most of the time he's 3-bet with his big hands. But I have seen him flat call with aces. So that's his range. Pretty tight and very straightforward. Okay, so we get a flop of 10-9 of hearts and a 3 of diamonds. So again, we have Ace Jack of Hearts. So pretty darn good flop for Ace Jack of Hearts, especially when you're going to be raising this in early position. So we got the nut flush draw. We have a backdoor straight and 2 overs. All right. Pretty darn good flop. Into a pot of 1875. I mean, you could go for a check raise here, or you could just lead out. I think either one is completely fine. I lead out for 800 into 875. I'm sorry, 1875. I lead out for 800, so a little less than half pot, more than a third. And Craig, the straightforward, the tight, passive player, he raises now to 2K. So what can we put in his range here? I would argue here that the hands that we can put in his range here are pocket nines through pocket aces. So he has a set of nines, a set of tens, or he's got an overpair. Pocket threes, 9-10 for 2 pair, and possibly, and Carlos brought this up when I posted the hand to my study group. He brought up possibly 8-9 of hearts and king-queen of hearts, because he can't have queen-jack because we have the jack. There's a lot of hands that we block here. Having the ace jack of hearts. Queen jack is one of them. He can't have queen jack of hearts. He can't have ace king of hearts. He can't have ace queen of hearts. He can't have ace king of hearts. There's a lot of hands that he can't have because we have this hand. Now, having never seen him, bluff raise like this, I think there's only really strong hands in his range. And normally in a scenario like this, against an unknown opponent or against even a known opponent that's especially loose aggressive, we're just shipping it in without even a second thought. We may give it a couple of seconds to kind of Hollywood a bit and put on a show. But with this player, with Craig, him having played so tight, I mean, we know that when we're getting our money in here, we're behind. And doing the math on this, there's now, with his raise, there's 46.75 in the pot. And our effective stacks are 4,400 behind because he has us covered by a few big blinds. So, 46.75 in the pot. If we shove here, that's another 4,400. Then when he calls, that's another 4,400. That would bring the pot total to 13,475, which means we have to contribute 4,400 to that. So you take 4,400 divided by 13,475, and you get 32.6%. Now, what does that mean? That means that we only have to contribute less than a third of the pot. That means that we have to win this pot more than a third of the time. So do we do that? I had to call my study group and have them plug this into Slice and Equilab and see what this range actually broke down to. Because if you think about it, we know we're behind. And we've got, an ace could never be good. A jack, I'm assuming, is never good here. I really do not think this guy is doing this with ace 10, because I've seen him just call down with top pair. I saw him check behind on a river with no straight, no flush possibilities. He had 10, let me get this right, he had jack 10 for trips. There was 2 10s on the board, and he never raised, and he never bet out. So him raising here looks extremely strong. So that's why I put his range is so tight. A set of 3s, 10-9 for 2 pair, a set of 9s, a set of 10s, or jacks plus as an overpair. And Carlos mentioned, he also said that, he could have king, queen of hearts, and that would probably make sense with this guy. And he could have 8, 9 of hearts for a straight flush draw, which would also make sense. So just putting in the range of sets, the 2 pair for 10-9, and jacks plus, we're actually 39% against that range, believe it or not, having the nut flush draw. So it's an obvious get it in there. In the moment when I was playing, I didn't have Equilab in front of me, and I didn't know that ace jack of hearts was doing that well against that. I was able to add up the pot in my head and get it pretty close. I was sure I was going with this hand, but I just really wanted to think about it because I knew I was behind with this guy, and he was never folding. So after plugging that in, it was definitely a call. I ended up calling, and he showed down 10-9. We never improved, and we were out of the tournament and off to the next one. But I thought that was an interesting spot because I thought it was a lot closer than that. I thought that this was going to be something like we needed to contribute 33% of the pot, and we were going to win like 29 or something. I thought it was a lot closer than that, but it wasn't. So it was an obvious call once you plug it into the program. But interesting hand. And on top of that, when you do plug in the 8-7 of hearts and the king queen of hearts, that brings us up over 40% as far as equity, so it's an easy get it in. And that's how you make some money. Speaking of making some money, Elliott Rowe, that's how you make some money. You got to get in the right mindset before you play. You got to have a warm-up routine. Spend 10 minutes before you play and listen to an MP3 of the type of game that you're about to play. It's a poker hypnosis tape. It's an MP3 specific for your game. He has a bunch of MP3s, depending on what your weakness is, what you want to work on. He has a life value pack for confidence, happiness, exercise, and weight loss. He's got ones for bankroll management. He's got ones for live cash, live MTTs, online MTTs, online cash. He's got them all. You have to do something before you play to let go of everything else, and you have to focus. Like his final table focus MP3. If you're thinking about something else while you're playing, you're costing yourself money because you're not focused. You want to be 100% focused on your game. Nothing else should be in your mind. So, click on the link in the show notes and go to HeadsUpPoker.Poker, or you can use the link in the show notes and you'll find it there. Get his 7-minute tilt buster. It's free. You can try it out for free. It doesn't cost you anything, and then you get to actually try this before you purchase any of his tapes. If you decide to purchase, use the code HUPpoker, and you'll score yourself a little discount. You'll kick back some to the podcast, and it's just a win-win. Try it. I promise you'll be glad you did. I use them. Mike uses them. I know this is an edge that is, it's the next step in poker. It really is. And all the greats use them. He's just Elliott Rowe. There's nothing more to say. Okay, let's see. I have another hand in a satellite. This was an interesting spot. And it kind of came from, well, it was a quick satellite. It was a 500 buy-in, Hong Kong. That's, I'm trying to do the math here. I think it was like 60 or $70, something like that. It was a quick one. It was 15-minute levels, so it was basically a turbo. And blind levels went up. They skipped a couple of levels, so this was a quick turbo before the main to try to win a seat. We've been making friends with the guy to our right, which is he's a guy from Portugal, and we're talking about our wives. He has a foreign wife from Russia, and I'm married to a Colombian, and we're talking about the differences in cultures and like that. And the blind levels were 100, 200, and we had a 4K stack. And the next blind levels went up to 200, 400. So we went instantly from 20 big blinds to 10, a huge difference. And now, I think this might have been, I was a little bit too involved in the conversation with him and not enough involved in the hand, and the results would have been the same. I had king-queen suited, I had king-queen of spades, and I was in early middle position. I think I was, let's see, under the gun fold. I was under the gun +2. And I look down at king-queen suited, and I go to reach in to grab some chips to make a raise because I got 20 big blinds. And as I'm putting out the raise, I can see the tournament board in front of me, and it says the levels are now 200, 400. And I remember thinking, I was like, oh, I don't have 20 big blinds anymore. Now I have 10. But as I already have the chips in my hand, and I'm already stacking them into a raise, and I realized at that point that I can't raise to 400 anymore. That's just going to be a call. I have to raise to 800. So I put 800 out, and then I put my hand back, and I'm like, wow, I only have 8 big blinds left in my stack. I probably would have been better off here just shoving. Well, be it as it may, that was definitely a lesson to me. Always pay attention to the blind levels. Don't get too involved in conversations at the poker table, especially when you're playing a hand. And just be on your game at all times. And so I put out a raise to 800. It folds to a guy in later position. He was, I talked about him on the last podcast. He was probably the second best player at the table. He re-raises and shoves all in, and at that point I got 8 bigs, and there's nothing I could do, especially with king-queen suited and call. But that was a lesson there. A hand that I'm going to raise fold there with 20 big blinds would be like the wheel aces, suited, because I think it's very likely you could be dominated by bigger aces there. But that's just a lesson to me, and I wanted to pass it on to you guys, is always be aware of how many blinds you have, especially when the levels are going up like that. And, I think it's very important to be engaged at the poker table and be social, but not so much so that it's at the expense of playing good cards and playing well and playing good poker. Okay, I've got a voice note here from one of the hands I played in the following tournament in the main. But first, I also want to tell you about Tournament Poker Edge. I've been talking with Derek and Diego, 2 of the creators of the site, for a few months now, trying to get you guys some kind of deal, some kind of discount to join TPE. And I finally locked it in. So if you're serious about getting better at tournaments, there's no better place than joining a study group in the community of Tournament Poker Edge. I mean, it's in the name. It gives you an edge in tournaments. They have forums where you can post hands and get feedback from other players just like you and from the pros. Andrew Brokus is on there all the time. They have over 1,000 training videos. They come out with 5 a week, and they've done that since they opened. Andrew Brokus just has a series on his latest WCOOP main event run. They have the TPE University, if you're a classroom coursework kind of person. They've got courses on early, middle, late stages of tournaments, micro, mid-stakes, high stakes, 3 and 4 betting, bankroll, building and management, hand reading, final tables, turbos, hyper turbos, rebuys, live play, heads up, mixed games, math in poker, using the heads-up display, the HUDs, money bubbles, ICM, pre-flop, post-flop, position. It just goes on. It is an awesome, awesome site. I've been a part of it for years. You can sign up by choosing a month-by-month option, or you can choose a quarterly system, or just go for it and do the annual. That's what I do. I just sign up for an annual, then I don't have to worry about it for a year. I mean, what am I going to do? Stop playing tournaments? That's not an option. So here's your discount. You can use the coupon code HUPmonth, HUPquarter, or HUPyear. If you use the month by month, you'll get 25% off your first month. If you do the quarter, you'll get 25% off the first quarter. And if you do the year, you'll score yourself 10% off for your first year. It's just a great site, and I can't imagine playing tournaments without it. I really can't. I mean, you can post up hands and put up hands that you're not sure if you played right. You have the forum there. I watch the videos every single day. When I go to sleep at night, I'll put on a TPE video, and it's funny, but I actually dream about poker by watching a video before I go to sleep. It's a great, great site. The community is awesome, and it's not necessarily a training site as much as it is a community of people. We've had a lot of them on the podcast. It's an awesome site. Okay, on to the voice note. A couple things I want to say before we play the voice note here is we are about 18,000 effective. I have 27,000. And our villain, the Canadian guy, he has 18,000. So that's about 60 big blinds, because the blind levels are 150, 300 with a 25 ante. We have 9 people at the table. And the history with the Canadian guy, he's just to my left. He and I have been kind of friendly. You know, you always want to befriend the guy to your left, because he's the one that's usually going to be taking your money. He is just played the WPT tour in, where was it? It was somewhere else in China, I believe. He had just played that. Not a real strong player, a little bit too loose, calling down a little bit light, and I was kind of surprised that he was playing the WPT tour when he wasn't that great at cards. I think he's definitely a recreational player. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Okay, we'll go ahead and play the voicemail note, and then we'll analyze it from there. Line level 150, 325 ante. I'm in early-ish position. I've got ace-king offsuit. I raise to 775. I get called by the guy to my left, the Canadian guy, and then by the big blind, the guy wearing the Asian poker tour shirt. Flop comes out, king, 3-5, 2 hearts. I have no heart. I bet out 1250. Canadian guy to my left calls. Big blind folds. Turn is queen. I check, he checks, and the river is a blank. I check and he checks. He's got pocket 9. I'm afraid I missed some value. Okay, so there you can hear that I was a little disappointed that I didn't get a bet in on either the turn or river. Feels like I should have got a little bit more value, and after reviewing this, I really think I should have. So just to review, ace-king off, 150, 300, 25 ante. We raise from early position to 775. The Canadian guy to our left calls the 775, and then the big blind comes along. So the pot now is 2,700, and we've got about 17K behind effective. And the flop comes out king 5-3 with 2 hearts, and we have the ace-king with no heart. Definitely a c-bet here, I believe, into the big blind checks to us. Definitely worth a c-bet here. The big blind's range could be very wide. You know, he could have a 6-4 suited. He could have some kind of draw, he might call with something like 5-6 for a second pair. And the guy to our left has a lot of kings in his range as well, I believe. King 10, I was thinking king 9 suited, that might be a little wide for this guy. Yeah, especially that. So he probably has something like king 10 plus, and a lot of pairs too. He's probably got pairs, 5s plus here. So we lead out for $12.50 into $2,700. We get a call from the Canadian guy, and the big blind folds, which I think is a good result. We're getting some action with the top pair, top kicker on this board. The turn comes a queen. Now, at this point, I think we can get 2 streets of value here from ace king. And we can either go for another bet here on the turn, or we can go for a bet on the river. I think going 3 streets with this hand is a little ambitious, but 2 I think is definitely good. So do we go for it on the turn, or do we go for it on the river? I think here we're probably better off going for it on the turn, and my reasoning is there's the flush draw out there. And I think he's either going to make his flush on the river, or he's not, and he's not going to call a bet on the river, and he may on the turn. So I think it's better to go for value here on the turn, and then possibly check back the river. Unless we catch an ace or something. Yeah, I really think this is a value bet here, and I don't. I check behind, and then I check behind on the blank river. It's tough playing a hand like this out of position, because you have far less information than your opponent does. Playing ace king like this, if the roles were reversed and we had ace king and he was on our right, I think it's a pretty easy lead on the turn. You might even be able to go 3 streets with ace king here. But yeah, I really think it's a bet on the turn. If not the turn, then definitely the river. When the river blanks, the flush misses, everything, we could get called by, I don't know, queen jack of hearts. There's so many hands. Weaker kings, it's just a bet. I don't know why I didn't go for the bet there, but you could tell it obviously bothered me from the voicemail notes. So one thing to take from this is definitely take down these voicemail notes, get it out of your head, because that hand was bothering me, and I had to wait a few hands to record it. I had to play through the blinds because I was in early position. I didn't get a chance to step away, but you could hear how it was only 50 seconds, maybe a minute long. I got the hand down onto a voice note so I can come back, in this case, days later, dissect the hand, break it down, really think through it, and realize that, yes, this was a missed bet, or no, I played this okay. And, so start taking these voice notes. It's just, download a free program on your phone, and you can just step away from the table, do it, and then come back, and it'll clear your head, and now you can focus on the cards. Okay, got one more spot for you guys. I did pretty well in this main. Went pretty deep. The top 6 paid, and we're now down to 5. And so this was a PokerStars live event. It was the last event of the series, and the rake was 11%. It's not the ideal 10% or below that we're looking for, but the competition was very slim. I had no problem paying the 11% rake when for the field. Guys were rebuying for 8 and 10 big blinds. I mean, it really was pretty sick. So we made the final table. We're in the money, and if you guys, this is an ICM spot. If you guys can remember the Jack hand where I called. Let me see if I can remember this right. I was at a final table on an online tournament. A guy shoved, and we were in the big blind with 5-5. We were down to 4-handed. And I thought that was a snap call because he'd been raising a lot on the button. And I thought that, pretty much any pair, well, maybe not 2s or 3s, but I thought 5s was certainly a call. And we, I believe, had something like 18 big blinds. The button who was raising had like 20, and there were 2 shorter stacks there, one with like 8 bigs and another with 4. After plugging it into the ICM calculator, come to find out that only jacks plus was actually a profitable call there, and fives was way in the red. And it's because there were two shorter stacks there. Because if we bust here by the only guy that can bust us at the table, then we get fourth place money, and we're not, our chips are worth more than that in the independent chip model. So this is kind of a similar spot, and well, sort of. We're on the shoving side instead of on the calling side. So the stacks here, we're five-handed, we're on the button, and the small blind has 30 big blinds. The big blind has 2.5 big blinds. Under the gun has 2.8 bigs. Under the gun plus 1, which would be the cutoff, has 30 big blinds. And we're on the button with 4.3. So this is kind of an odd spot. There's two huge stacks and three real short stacks, and we're actually in third place here with 4.3 big blinds. So it's easier for the big stacks, which it was funny how soft this tournament was, because the two big stacks with the 30 big blinds, they were like consistently going to war against each other, which the other three of us, ironically, the three guys with short stacks were the best players at the table, and the other two with big stacks were not. And we're just kind of looking at each other because we all understand ICM and they don't. And they were going to war. It was awesome. I was so hoping one of them would bust. But anyway, that wasn't meant to be. We're on the button with 4.3 big blinds. And the small blind has 30 bigs and the big blind has 2.5. Now, it folds to us. And this is the first hand back from break. So we just come back from break. And we're the first hand back, and everyone's sitting at the table. Everyone made it back in time, but the small blind, the big stack, he folded his cards out of turn and also didn't post his small blind. So when it folded to me, he was already removed from the equation, the one guy that could knock me out. And now I'm on the button with 4.3 bigs, and I've got a short stack in the with 2.5. I would argue that this is a shove with any two cards. When I get home, I'm going to plug this into ICMizer, and I'll tell you guys about it next week. But I'm going to say here that we can shove with any two cards because we have the one guy out of the tournament, or out of the hand, that cannot knock us out. We get a free 5K because the blind levels are 5K, 10K. So we've got 43K. And there's just a short stack in the big blind. So I look down, I see a face card. It was Jack, and I later found out that both my cards were Jack 4. But I look down, I shove, and the big blind, he actually took a little while, and he thought about it, and then he kind of shrugged his shoulders. It's like, what else could I do? And he called, and he had ace-8 suited. We didn't improve. Well, I take that back. We did get we did actually get two pair. He caught an ace on the flop, and then we hit a jack, turned to 4, and then the river was, I believe, a 5, which paired the board and gave him a better two pair. So that was a bummer, but didn't ladder up there. That knocked us down to 1.9 big blinds or whatever it was. The very next hand, we got an ace, shoved it in. We had ace-7, and the same guy woke up with ace-4. Well, woke up. He got ace-4. He called, and then he caught a 4 on the flop, and that was good game. So, wasn't meant to be, but it was a good little run. I played a total of 5 tournaments in a few days, and I cashed in 2 of them, and came out with a good little profit for this tournament run. It was a lot of fun, and I would recommend Macau for poker. If you want to play high stakes cash, as far as tournaments, I would definitely check out the scene before you come here, because I was at the only casino in all of Macau that had any tournaments at it, and it was a special PokerStars live series. So definitely check it out before you come here. They don't run tournaments very often, but they do have, I found out later, they have a lot of cash games. The minimum stake at any cash game that I saw was 25.50 Hong Kong dollars, which comes out to I'm putting myself on the spot here. It's like a 3.6, maybe $3.57 American dollar tournament. Or I'm sorry, cash blind levels, 3 and 6, something like that, with a max buy-in of let's see, what would that be? I'm sorry, minimum buy-in of $600. Maximum was like over $1,000, I think, and that was the smallest game. The bigger games, they go way up from there. So, you know, I saw 25.50, then I saw 50.100, then I saw 100.200, which would be like a $13 small blind and a $26 big blind. And I believe I even saw 501,000 at the Venetian, and that's like 50 something dollars and like $130 for the blind levels. So big games as far as cash. And if the tournament, you know, if the players playing in the tournament were any indication of how how good the games are, then the cash games have got to be great as well. I never played any cash. I only played the tournaments and had a great time. Thank you to PokerStars Live. It was a fun series. And yeah. Well, I think that's it. My wife and I are going to go to watch the parade, and then tomorrow we're going to watch the fireworks. I'm going to throw up some videos on Twitter, so you can follow me at HUPpodcast, and I'll throw up a couple of videos there. So thank you for tuning in, and here is your weekly motivational speech.
Today, this opportunity you have, it might not be here next year. It might not be here the year after next. It might not be here the year after that. This is the only moment you got, and you better take advantage of this particular moment. It does not take talent. You don't have to be talented, right? You don't have to be gifted. You don't have to be the quickest, the strongest. You don't have to be the most intelligent to get to where I am. That's what you gotta do. You just gotta grind, though. Your grind, you gotta outgrind. You have to take advantage of an opportunity of a lifetime in the lifetime of the opportunity. You have to make a decision that nobody in this league in your position will outwork you.
If you think it's going to be easy, forget about it. Don't even try to be successful. It's a wrap. It's not going to be easy. But I want you to feel that pain going through your body. And as pain leaves your body, guess what's going to take its place? Success. Don't give up. I'm telling you right now, don't give in. Get through it. And if you can get through it, if you can work through your pain, if you can work through your pain, I'm guaranteeing you on the other side is a reward. Pain is not permanent. Pain is temporary. If you can outlast pain, if you can get through that pain, if you can get through that discomfort, all right? If you can outlast that discomfort, I guarantee you, baby, on the other side of it is success. Your pain ain't permanent. You can get through this. You're bigger than your pain. You're better than that. Without struggle, there is no progress.
Practice don't make perfect. Practice make permanence. This is permanent, y'all. This is permanent. You can go wherever you want to go from here.
I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die.